Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Quiz and Quill's Inkwell Radio Hour. I am your host, Adam Willis.
I am your co-host, Dalton Mosley.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
In this episode, we have something truly special for you guys. A reading from a former managing editor of Quiz and Quill, Wes Jamison. In addition, we have readings from two students in the Otterbein English department, Isaac Jones and Charlie Ryan.
Now, before we begin those lovely, lovely readings, we have some announcements today. Haiku Deathmatch is on March 20th at Old Bag of Nails. It will be on the third floor. We hope to see you there. Additionally, this Quiz and Quill Spring Writing Awards and the senior readings are on April 17th. We have a lot of very wonderful seniors. Dalton and myself will be there, so we hope to see you there as well.
Yep. Now, let's get on with the program. Our student readings is first up. For our first student, we have Isaac Jones.
Yeah, it's called Goodwill and all that. So, okay. In amorous absence, I am sadly an unglued image that dries, yellows, shrivels, from a lover's discourse fragments by Roland Barthes. A vaguely charming man, dark hair bleached in cowprint patches, sauntered over to me like the last sappy soul in conifer country, tapping the tap. He tapped my shoulder and tapped my shirt. I tapped my name and tapped my number. You're cute, I tapped, under company. His blush was rust-touched, collecting me like an amber-hued fly. I went home with what I believed were artifacts of his affection, but were textbook reproductions. The little boy points at the two-toned South Dakota dinosaur. Dad, were they really that big? When taking pictures with the 80-foot wall-drug brontosaurus, it is always more satisfying to believe they were. Otherwise, you can congratulate yourself on pictures with oddly shaped cement. Giving him my number no longer felt like something savory, an impression that stays with you, a bug's encounter with a sappy soul, but a fly strip experience. Unlike the suppleness of the gnat body collapsing under your finger, that little swatch of mahogany, I finally got it. They go hard on a fly strip, where the blood pools as they slowly die of starvation. The it gets caught and dies there, becoming they, only when there are too many to count. I had the false impression that something special had occurred. It was decidedly old-fashioned when compared to Tinder, Hinge, and the like, which had co-authored a confidence in me that everyone but myself had observed. My friend, who was there at the time, assured me he'd text. "Everywhere you go, you get some," she said. It was only Goodwill, not the place to have coffee spilled on you, but it seemed a rare enough encounter. It began when he noticed my PJ Harvey shirt. On it was the question that would be in my mind, continuing to cycle even now, months later. Is this desire? I wanted something recreational. I wasn't thinking money would change hands, but I expected some exchange. I never said fidelity. I preferred things without strings, much less those ossified gold threads that never seemed to want to break. I can't remember how he said it, clad in hiker's pants of many pockets, shooting that honeyed look of many colors, something like, "Let's keep in touch." I would have heard this either way. Regardless, I did give him my number, which was its own tacit request. When he did not ultimately text, quote, "keep in touch," unquote, I thought that the distance between me and that Goodwill cad might have played a bigger part than I anticipated. He looked jeep-wrangled and adventurous, at least convincingly miming the off-roading type. Someone looking to get their hands dirty, someone that could change a tire. It was true, I was not from around here. I did not go to Ohio University and had no connection with Athens, Ohio, aside from the friends I was visiting on break. Distance was a good enough excuse for my friend as for my mother. For me, however, desire was not expressed in latitudes. I had more experience than either in 21st century trysts and knew what they did not. To them, reason plays a greater part in romance than it does in reality. Distance is a geographic certainty, but not an amatory one. At least, that was what I gleaned from myriad friends' failed long-distance relationship, or was the lesson, shiny silver, from my multiple long-distance paramours. That is not to say the distance would not tear love apart. I counted on that. It was that I did not believe distance should discourage trying, the plunge, the lark. It could also be that he just liked my shirt. Perhaps I only interested him in a platonic sense. It could be that my experience of reality was poisoned by online dating. He would never have been the spot of staying color when I closed my eyes. My online taste was far more exclusive. It did not work in terms of looks, the immediate left swipe, but whether or not I would deem them interesting, ephemeral as that label might prove to be. If it were the case, the quote, apps, had attenuated my intuition, then my friends must also be excellent liars. My friend was there to tell me how obviously into me they were, that they were blushing, eyeing me, and that I was not crazy. There was that look in his eye, that big bulb of ambition and ingenuity right behind his cornea, that white flash of desire. Whatever he said, I misheard as a promise. Something in the vampire point of his canine said, I'll suck you dry. Something in the Godspeed You, Black Emperor tattoo, said, I'll leave you wanting, and he would, wherever he landed, do the latter. I don't use the word love to describe this state of affairs because that's not what I want or would ever seek out. I would not describe love in a committed sense as something I do. Even if I did, I wouldn't recognize it when I felt it. The only thing that demarcates something I want from something I do not is the sense that I want it to continue, or the essence of want itself. We know we want as long as we want and no longer. That is the special stickiness of desire, adhering me to things I never knew I had come to want. The eclectic clothing, degree or degrees, the look of passion, the hint of attraction, the ambition lit up in shop windows, advertisements, and the interminable left swipe, catalyzed and quickened desire. This was the lesson, if ever there was one. Lessons in silver are good conductors. They draw more to them than just heat. Lessons empty out as platitudes. They pour over intuitions and set preconceptions. Silver linings are only as instructional as we make them. Oftentimes, they teach us things we already knew, and that way, lessons make us more of ourselves. Like lessons themselves, desire makes us more of ourselves. It seeks out that which isn't us, recruits it because we are not quite whole, or because we are not quite ourselves. That is me and myself, not to evoke Hegel. I would have enjoyed the frivolous sexting, and I love you in 3 months when nudity dulled, or even the terminal velocity of their relationship, whose speed spelled a slow and sparse conclusion. Rejection in this instance upset the quiet optimism or nigh certainty that he was overcome by me, could not stay away, wanted me. In the wake of such evidence to the contrary, I could only feel ambivalent. This perplexed me because I had drifted away from the initial sting to the problem of my response. In thinking, I grew concerned my desire had compressed his being into a missing bread clip. That is, he was inessential to me. I could just as easily twist the bag and slip the twisted bit under the loaf. I could just as easily buy a better one, or at least one harder to misplace. There was something about him that made it sting. Something ineffable. I've tried in vain to locate it. He had a facture, as Zizek might say, a luster that draws the eye. It made me want him long after he had apparently forgotten about me. I'm still thinking of him, months removed, feeling only the sense of wasted opportunity. There, I may betray myself. I did want something meaningful. I meant to do something meaningfully meaningless. Caught as I seem to be in whatever he uses to get rid of pests. 2. My encounter with Goodwill came right off the heels of a recent breakup of sorts. It was with someone with whom I shared a bed, drinks, intimacy, laughter, adoration, sadness, and elation, and, a final thing, departure. From one another we walked, and to one another we will likely not return. The separation altered my view of the world. Things began to refract and appear disordered, entropic, and in dire need of cessation. This sense was only magnified by the ensuing political calamity which represented, in my mind, and in the mind of those around me, a foreclosed future, an end before a beginning. It was only by re-examining yet another fragment of rejection, that radio silence, that I began to pick up the signal of something else. The first and only other time I gave my number to a man was to an awkward student named Luciano. A friend and I had stalled in front of the gender section study in sight of the wall of author-themed tote bags. I ended up taking the Virginia Woolf one home, complaining that the new Judith Butler book was not in stock. Luciano then slid into the conversation with an armload of obscure critical theory and a gaze intent on me, my Björk shirt, that he had complimented, my intellect that he had also complimented. "You're funny," he said. "The people at Kenyon are brain dead. You're much smarter than them." Now this was a bit of amber, a bit of old thing caught in life as it was living. He was far more precious to me. He was warm. The smile charmed me. Something in the way his labial lines pulled taut and his eyes slivered. He stuttered slightly, averted my eyes when his cheeks rouged, and self-soothed by running his hands that hung like petrified hooks over the book covers, scattering dust into the incandescent light. I told him about a film paper I was working on. He explained his perfunctory interest in a theory that I could not quite make sense of, though I could have listened for a great deal longer. It was clear he felt the same. It took a little over 30 minutes of appeal from his eager parents and my eager friends before I gave him my number and told him to text me. He replied that he would. I remember brimming with excitement, thankful for my fortitude, surface tension, and the other prohibitions or natural laws that kept me from skipping out of the store. When Luciano did not text, I was distraught. To sleep that night, I conceived that I had given him the wrong number. The logic was tenable, because I had been coming in and out of consciousness navigating the veritable labyrinth that was the book loft in German Village. It was split up into 32 sections by genre, though that term feels insufficient for the sheer volume of novels that had no business being grouped together. There were 2 floors of narrow corridors, random stairs, and isolated crannies. It was only 20 or 30 minutes. That much I concede. But it did not feel so condensed. He held his books to his chest tighter than I had ever seen anyone clutch a book before. His words were measured, and such thoughtfulness protracted the ordinary instant into the realm of possibility, whose verdant fields overlaid my concrete demeanor, placing me firmly in some vision of futurity. For whatever reason, I became sentimental, believing this moment was special. For even more confounding reasons, I believed he would text. I could not shake the sense that Luciano could not have texted me of his own volition, the possibility of a no. It wasn't the no that offended me so much as the undisclosed no, the opacity, a confession in the form of radio silence. Then, too, on the telephone, the other is always in a situation of departure. The other departs twice over, by voice and by silence. Whose turn is it to speak? We fall silent in unison. Crowding of 2 voids. I'm going to leave you, the voice on the telephone says with each second. From A Lover's Discourse by Roland Barthes. The truth is, I still mull over this rejection, weeks and months after it happened. At times, I thought I was going to cry about it. This will all read as pathetic, I'm sure. People often are. However, what people are besides pathetic is hysterical. Wanting to be wanted, desiring to be desired. When I was first drafting this essay, I thought that more than anything, I wanted to be wanted, not loved, not respected, just wanted. In the face of adversity at any level, and I can think of nothing more adverse than intimate relationships, I often detach myself and embody a steely and spectatorial position from which I might observe the hurt from a remove. That is, already having left. From a remove. I love that phrase. The idea that the negative is a space, that I have found a secret door out of attachment or locus of proximity, a remove. I am at once removed and inhabit the remove. It is defensible in that it is unassailable. Nothing can locate me, and so nothing can hurt me. There again, nothing can be created in a remove. If I exist within a negative, it would be against my position to generate anything at all. I say all of this because in the case of Luciano, that is what I did. It is far easier to cynically parse my desire as something without meaning, a tryst, a sext, than it is to realize I was simply excited. Moreover, the cool austerity of believing I'm only after being wanted means I get to be rejected because they didn't want me badly enough. The truth is simply that I wanted them and they did not want me, and that no matter the distance between us, the gap I created, it mattered enough to remove. The reason is not so important as the sentiment. Being the object of desire affirmed my ego, but realizing that I did want Luciano, that I actually desired him a great deal, broke my fixation with the remove which had so idled me. To live in the remove is to disallow oneself from embracing injury as part of the process, from embracing intimacy as a precarious feeling. When I was the one to be desired, I was perpetually dissatisfied. That is what makes desire so cyclical. From the position of the desire, you search endlessly for someone to fill an entirely illusory gap. From the position of the one who desires, you search endlessly for bits of people to fill a gap that is, again, entirely illusory. I don't know if love is something I do. I do not know whether or not I could recognize it if I saw it. The adage, "you'll know it when you feel it," never felt quite right. The more accurate phrase might read, "you won't know it, but you'll feel it." I can say for certain that I was not in love with Luciano, only that I wanted, in any variation of it, to continue.
Wonderful piece by Isaac Jones. Dalton, I can't help but notice all the wonderful psychoanalytic threads throughout this piece.
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. I really like Isaac's word choice. Like he's so capable of weaving like complex language in with like simplistic language, and it creates this really nice like aesthetic in his work. And furthermore, I love that he's never afraid to like go there or to like engage with what's difficult, because I struggle doing that in my own work, and seeing him do that with such candor is something I really appreciate.
I do as well. I was really interested in the way that he addressed the concept of desire.
Mm-hmm.
The desire of the other being the kind of core of your own desire. There's a lot to say there. We don't have a whole lot of time, but it's very interesting. Welcome back to the Quiz and Quill radio hour. We just finished listening to a piece by Isaac Jones, and next up we have a piece by Charlie Ryan. So let's take a listen.
This is I Exist Whether or Not I Am Televised. I am not a woman. I am not a girl either. Some people struggle with appearances. I understand. But to know me is to know what I am not. You see fluidity and joy and pink and expect something different. A manic pixie dream girl. Someone who just doesn't do labels. Or perhaps just a weird, mentally ill young woman. For many, this is the only way they can process me. The notion of double-crossing gender never occurs to them. The concept of complex queerness never occurs to them. The idea of asking a question never occurs to them. They do not get to see my limitless masculinity through my androgyny. It's never occurred to them that the man of the future starts somewhere and travels and changes and goes somewhere entirely else. He transforms. He is capable of being anything, and he is infinitely transcendent for it. I am not your daughter. Your tongue slips sometimes, and I often restrain myself from correcting you. It's been 2 decades, and you need time to change. You've known for years, but it was never safe for me to insist upon myself outside the home, so why would I insist upon myself within the home? I would still be daughter to the rest of the world. You're getting better, truly, and while you don't understand everything, I can tell that you care, and that means something, even if it stings. In my constant change and evolution, I will eventually be physically undeniable to you. And then, when the outside of the home starts to witness my masculinity, so will you. Meanwhile, I cherish every time you call me son. I am not your sister. You think it is a gesture of affection to lump me in with you and your girlfriends. You are setting yourself up for betrayal, because even if I do not nestle comfortably into the binary, I place my home somewhere that you do not. You will be disappointed when I do not entertain the idea that you can say you hate people like me in my presence. You think reversing things will fix things. You look at me baffled when I tell you that what you say hurts more than just those you are intending to get revenge against. You tell me I am an exception. I can assure you I am not. I am not your wife. You ignore my soul for my body. You disrespect me fundamentally. I will not entertain your possessive delusion over my autonomy. You will describe me in the only terms you have, in the only terms you want, but that will never erase me. Your lack of understanding, your attempts to reduce me, have liberated me, because no matter how I present, I exist in a way you will never be able to fully comprehend. Infinitely transcendent am I. You will never catch me.
I find Charlie's work, especially this piece right here, incredibly inspiring because he is so unapologetically himself and unafraid to be himself in his artistic expression. That's really beautiful to me.
I totally agree with you, Dalton. The strength of the affirmations in this piece really struck me. It almost reads like a manifesto at times. Constant stating of this is me, this is me, and doing so without shame. It's really, really a wonderful piece of lyric.
And in just 2 pages, which is a feat in of itself.
That is very true. It is. We love long pieces here at Quiz and Quill, but if you can capture so many affects and themes within such a short span of prose, it really is a talent.
Oh, yeah. All right. For our second segment, we are going into our special guest. Last Thursday, Otterbein alum and essayist Dr. Wes Jamison visited campus to give several talks and a reading of their work. Wes has published 2 books of essays, Melancholia and Carry On, and has another, My Corpse Inside. Now, they teach in the English and Philosophy department at Del Mar College in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Now, fortunately for us, Wes was kind enough to let us record their reading and to feature that reading in this episode. So we present this excerpt from the latter half of the reading. Since their mother was in the audience, Wes focused their reading on essays that spoke to their parent-child relationship.
You'll also hear Wes give a nod to Dr. Paul Eisenstein, who was also in the audience, and is still teaching film, psychoanalysis, and other courses here at Otterbein. We do hope you enjoy the reading as much as we did.
So I have another book coming out, and I'm really looking forward to it. Carrion's great, but Carrion was written by a version of me 10 years ago. And so there's a little bit of distance between the voice of it and mine now. And this work from My Corpse Inside, coming out later this year, it's just fresher, more recent, older, more mature, more me, and better, if I say so myself. But more about my mother. Phone calls with my mother last for hours, and they always end on TV shows and movies we've watched since we spoke last. We need it after talking about usually death and the news, but only that kind of news that we think is worth comment. The kind of news that predicts the end of humanity, which is anymore most kinds of news. Oh, sad. She always starts with something new on or new to Netflix, and it's almost always something I haven't seen. It's weird, you'll like it, she says, although it's unclear exactly what she thinks I like. Weird designates something discomforting and includes unlikely premises, complex cinematography, and seemingly a recent brand of quirky horror, the kind I always attribute to hipsters. And I almost never watch them. My suggestions are always few because they are usually horror, especially psychological horrors that she wouldn't or couldn't empathize with. Once, I convinced her to watch Darren Aronofsky's Mother with me, as I physically recoiled from the sounds of this cult tearing apart a living baby no longer living. She looks at me from across the room, watches my disgust, and says, "Oh, it's just a movie." But in the past week, I've watched only one film multiple times. One I had seen multiple times before that. I tell her it's for this project, which we also usually talk about. She seems to listen intently, that unmuted silence from the phone as I stutter to develop the language with her. I'm confronting the difficulty. It's all abstruse and rhetorical gymnastics. Let's look at 40-year-old critical theory defined answers to impractical questions that no one, especially my mother, wants to ask, like, what is the body to me? And are we inside our bodies or are we them? To what does I refer? If not me, then what? I try to anchor myself to the psychology and psychoanalysis she picked up during her years spent working in mental health. I try to buoy myself with that. I'm sorry, Paul. Okay, you know the whole kill your father, have sex with your mother thing? Well, it's like that, but instead, all we do is turn away from the nipple while being nursed. That's what Yulia Kristeva said. It's a name she knows by now, Yulia Kristeva. But when she talks about her ideas, my mother never uses her name. When we talk this way, though, I always repeat a half joke, that she'll never be given a copy of the project, this book. That she isn't allowed to read it. She's not fed up exactly, but this time her small chuckle breaks off. Well, why not? I've probably led her to believe she knows what all's in it, the content, everything, and this could be confirmed by how much we've discussed it, hours every week for a year. But she doesn't. I don't talk to her directly about the abuse, about all the ways my ex-husband hurt and violated me. When it comes up, I lied as aggressively as possible so as to give her permission to do the same. I just tell her that many parts would be uncomfortable to read given our emotional proximity, given how uncomfortable these parts have been to write. Well, like what? I think my family has done well in never acknowledging that he was abusive, that what I did was as much survive him as divorce him, precisely because I have ablated the whole thing, the sex, the violence, the bodies, the archives of my violable body. Well, what does that have to do with those videos and snakes and all this other stuff, that K person? Sometimes we want answers that don't answer more than we want explanations that do. So, well, the internet, that's what. She goads and she calculates. She stops silent, voice still, and then the realization, it's all on the internet. My family jokes at my mother's expense about how the 3 children were raised. My older brother watched RoboCop religiously before he was even 10. And when you're raising 3 children, the younger is plopped down next to the older in front of the television. So just as my brother sat with my sister, 5 years older than he is, to watch Pretty in Pink, so too was I plopped down next to him, religiously watching the violence, the disgust, and the sense of shame the shame at that dismembered man in that suit. My mother offers The Fly as another, her favorite example. And yet I was expressly barred from watching Dumbo and Bambi for how they completely undid my brother. The thought of losing Mom has proven to be far more psychically damaging than the Brundlefly pulling Gina Davis's shotgun to its forehead, or later Sigourney Weaver's mutated plea, "Kill me." All 3 children, though, loved Labyrinth. If you were here, this is weird to read. If you were here, I'd also ask, you want me to recite the whole movie with sound effects and songs from beginning to end? Because I can. I won't. My brother just now sends me a meme depicting two children of the late 80s, early 90s in front of a television enraptured. And the caption reads, 7-year-old me watching Jason Voorhees beat a woman in a sleeping bag to death against a tree. Friday the 13th? Jason Voorhees? I don't know. Y'all are so young. I don't know what you know. When the family rented Dracula, the one with Winona, which is also the one with Keanu, I was asked to leave the room to step into my mother's bedroom during a sex scene. I peeked, of course. I remembered breasts and confusion as to why there were so many bodies involved. Sex and loss, both taboo. But not blood, not death, and certainly not the violation by a face hugger. The horror, not of the chest burster, but of discovering the man we thought was human was an android all along. After my sister moved out, my brother and I watched movies at night after Mom went to sleep. I'd sit on the floor or the edge of his bed in his darkened room, and we watch mostly horror films, many slasher thrills like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the Halloween and Friday the 13th franchises, and probably just as many psychological horrors like The Shining. What is that bear doing? The Haunting, the good one, not the bad one. Cube. The films I loved the most and what my brother and I eventually settled into was a particular blend of body horror and something else I couldn't yet describe. RoboCop, Running Man, Total Recall. Perhaps it was Arnold himself who interested me rather than the movies. The Thing, Blade Runner, Brain Scan, and every Alien movie, even the one with Winona, on repeat. When I called to discuss this project with my mother, when she and I create this imaginary book in which I talk about subjectivity, which with her I refer to as selfhood, and the internet, how we position ourselves in relation to its archive, the detritus and the illicit, and my frustration at knowing that when Yulia Kristeva says the corpse is the utmost of abjection, she is wrong, and that isn't the point anyway. Every time we talk about this, it's as if she's forgotten our previous conversation. My phone call pacing is stopped abruptly by her long, disarming silence. I can't tell if she's silent because she is confused and processing, or because we've disconnected, or, and this is the part that scares me the most every time I sit to write this imaginary book, because this is a response to the disgust and judgment of me and the shit I've admitted, which is usually only the one thing I did in college just to see if I could, and I could, so I did, and I kept this fact almost entirely hidden until one night I dreamed of this imaginary book, ostensibly about that sword, the slack jaw, and the wagging tongue. But she says finally, all I know about that is that I watched this old movie and it disturbed me so much. I can't remember what it's called, but I wish I had never seen it because even thinking about it, and she gags audibly over the phone, thinking about it makes me want to puke. There's this guy tied up in a chair, okay? And some other guys put some contraption in his mouth to hold it open, you know, the sort of thing. And you know how gaggy I am anyway. My whole life, I can't even go to the dentist without gagging. And it's true, she can't. So they pour a packet of salt on the back of her tongue to shut off that mechanism. So maybe this is all to do with having a small mouth or something from my childhood. She suggests that all this stuff I spout off about this theory and that, these theorists, as if they are real people, as if they are people who matter, as if theory matters. This is all certainly subjective, that my problem with Kristeva's corpse actually isn't to do with anything that I've said at all. Instead, the problem is that there can't be a universal abject, as she pronounces it. No possibility that no possibility that one person can speak about and for all humanity. She's right. I know that she's right. My mother's, her abject, this scene is horrifying to her because of her own small mouth and the way she gags when she opens it, even to brush her teeth. She's convinced that I have, as always, overcomplicated. The problem I'm talking about with the corpse and abjection is, forget all that, she says. The problem is that everyone is going to react differently. Wouldn't the corpse be less abject to the coroner? I tell her that some may even delight in a corpse and that Kristeva calls these individuals corpse fanciers. All this is to say that I think my mother gives very little credence to this kind of capital T theory, and it doesn't seem to me that many people are interested in theory like this. My partner listens to what I say about Kristeva. I solicit opinions and examples, and what I get in return ranges from, okay, to in an exaggerated yokel accent, I don't know about all that smart people stuff. My friend Dee listens generously and comments only on everything that is not the theory itself. I would describe this as avoidance, prejudice, or explicit bias like broccoli or snakes or race if I couldn't see how theory doesn't want to be interesting or popular or appealing or even understandable. Is the discourse only of academia made intentionally inaccessible to those outside? Why would anyone actually be interested in this kind of theory? And why am I? But, my mother says, these people take this big snake and they put it in his pried open mouth and it slithers down this guy's throat into his stomach and it kills him. Now the pause is my own. Well, she asks. I've never seen this movie, but by now I'm familiar enough with my mother's description of the scene to know it is collateral damage. I don't remember ever watching it, but I did eventually Google to find the scene. The snake is a thin, venomous, a supposed coral snake fed easily into this victim's mouth, the only struggle being that of will rather than biology or physics. My whole life, my mother's snakes have been big. She has these recurring dreams. She describes these recurring dreams to me with snakes. There are hundreds of them covering the living room floor. If they're fewer, they're even bigger. Sometimes just a single big snake in a ditch, and when it's that big, it's always the yellow kind, the albino Burmese python. So when she describes the snake in Collateral Damage as a big snake, that's what I've imagined. I confessed this to her later, and she laughed. How could a snake like that even fit down a guy's throat? It couldn't, and that's part of why I've listened so enthusiastically to her description of it. Each and every time that she describes it to me, what she doesn't recall from the scene and the details that she doesn't tell me, it's allowed me to imagine a dislocated jaw that exposes a wagging tongue to lick up the entire belly of some big constrictor whose ribs squeeze past teeth and under uvula, the stretched, bleeding esophagus and the watering eyes, the pressure building behind there, the way retching would only open yourself wider for it, the horrible moment of being not only filled by it, but also made elastic to accommodate more still, feeling the snake weight both on you and inside you, a weight of meaninglessness about which there is nothing insignificant, crushing you, and the way two bodies are first distorted to be made unlike themselves, and then one is made the very boundary and limit of the other. This scene is all she knows about abjection. So I listen for how identity, order, a system is disturbed, how boundaries may collapse. That threat lying very near, constrictors narrow and tighten us onto ourselves, and it doesn't matter, it turns out, whether they tighten to prevent oxygenated blood from reaching our brains or to prevent blood from oxygenating. Suffocation has nothing to do with air, only veins, which is something I learned from my legal advisor. Her reaction, I imagine, happens in response to some very complex math done somewhere deep inside her. The snake is venomous, black and yellow kill a fellow, death creates a corpse, our own, and the corpse is a violent representation of what we have ejected to become subjects. Even from a young age, my mother talked to us about death. Maybe because our yard is the resting place of 50 years worth of pets. Maybe because she was wrecked by her own mother's sudden passing. Why would she call her daughter before calling the ambulance? She was very intentional, I think, in her parenting. She made exactly two things absolutely known to the three of us. Decades of repeating the same words so they stick. First, be all that you can be, but don't join the army. Second, your body is just a vehicle. My mother is no corpse fancier, but we talk about death and dying regularly. My siblings laugh. When we talked most recently, she told me that even though they are long past, her parents are regularly in her dreams. My grandmother died at 62 before I was old enough to remember her, get to know her, although there is a whole movie with both of us in it. I can walk and maybe I can talk, sort of. And I go to their pet cat, Sally, and my grandma tells me not to because Sally will get me or scratch me or something. Gramps died much more recently in the apartment we built attached to my mom's house. A long time ago in Chicago, I woke up crying and had to immediately call my mother. I need to know if Grandma would have liked me. I just have to know. I need to know if we would have been friends. She said, oh, she would have loved you. The most recent phone call, my mother talks about death in a way I'm not accustomed to. She wondered what her mother would be like now, whether she is like or unlike her mom would have been had she not died. I know I've said this before, Mom, but I don't, and my voice cracks. I can't imagine how you do it, how you've done it for so many years. I cry and gasp at almost every word. I don't know how a person continues to wake up every day knowing that their mom has died. How do you function? I would be undone every single day. When we'd replant her mom's grave, we'd also pay respects to the woman whose picture is stuck onto the stone under foggy plastic, and to the baby 2 rows down. There's a third thing she made absolutely known, that after her mother passed, she dreamed that she received a phone call and her mother was on the other line. And she told my mom all about it in a language she failed to understand by morning. My mother now repeats this old promise, just like my mom did. You better believe if I am able, I will call and let you know that I have arrived.
After the reading, Wes came to visit Quiz and Quill again, and again, let us record a portion of their open form interview that we had with our essay editor, Freddie Bohr. The following is that open form interview.
Hello, everybody. Today we have an absolute treat. We have Wes Jamison here with us, a Otterbein alumni, who just recently did a reading in the Philomethian Room, 2 separate texts, one from Carry On, a featured book that we've been reading all throughout this semester in Shannon Lackinen's lyric class. And would you like to introduce yourself, Wes?
I am Wes Jamison. Let's see, I graduated Otterbein in 2010. I did literature studies and creative writing and a minor in what was, I think, gender and sexuality studies. At the time, it wasn't yet a major. Oh, I loved Quiz and Quill. over the 4 years, I did the whole I'm a reader thing, and then I did the genre editor thing. I did the page designer thing. Then I was eventually the managing editor. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I love Quiz and Quill.
Yeah, no, we have our fun here too.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah,
that continues to be a
Good.
lasting tradition.
Good.
So let's talk about your stuff then. Lyric. Last night, or at least of the time of this recording, you were in the lyric class, and we did indeed talk about the mode of lyric, and I want to sort of throw back the question that you asked us all. How do you define the mode of lyric?
Yeah, so the question was asked of me, like how do I use, or how do I, and I'm just like, I don't know, like that depends on what you're really asking me. How are you all defining the lyric mode? Because of course I'm not privy to the conversations that you're having in class. Lyric mode for me is about patterns of images and sounds. So the lyric, I think, is associated with poetry more often because we can hear things like alliteration and rhyme very easily. But then there are, I think, other modes that are there to help define like the lyric essay, right? Because there's structure and form, and there is an element of narrative, and then there's this whole like essaying mode that I think is separate from the lyric, although I think that they complement each other very, very well. But yeah, the lyric remains the pattern, I think.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we've discussed in Shannon's lyric class, it's a big part is trying to find these small threads and trying to connect them together to piece together this story that this author is trying to create throughout lyric. And I do also want to ask you is that often I find that for the average reader, essay for one, but also to an extent lyric is always seen as that like fourth genre of writing that isn't necessarily as commonly known amongst a population. And so often, and especially in my experience too, learning how to essay was a very tricky process because it was just so unique. And so I want to ask you, what would your advice be to getting into essay and or lyric, whether it be reading or writing it?
I know that what turned me on to the essay was Virginia Woolf's Death of the Moth, and I was so in love, and of course it was Shannon who exposed me to this world, but Shannon told me, if you love that essay, you should maybe read A Room of One's Own over the summer, and I did. And it was just a whole new, I was like, what on earth is this? There's like a fake story, right, about real people, but also that's not even the point. And she's just working like through this idea, and I was just amazed, right? And I tried it, right? And I tried. I don't think that essaying is easy to pick up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that when we do pick it up, I think many students are probably going straight into the solipsism and the navel gazing that so many people dislike about memoir and essaying. And I did that. I did a lot of navel gazing, and then I think eventually, like with practice, you learn to turn up from your own navel and look out into the world and essay things that you see rather than your own self.
Yeah, absolutely. Well put. Sort of shifting the topic a bit, I want to talk to you about your experience in Quiz and Quill.
Mm-hmm.
Right off of that, I want to ask you if you can remember, is there any one particular moment that you remember like very fondly of when you were in Quiz and Quill?
Oh. I remember that Morgan Ritchie always, would frequently bring fruit pizza. And it was phenomenal. I think it was like a crescent roll crust kind of thing with like a cream cheese. And I remember, this is important, okay? And she would do a Q and Q with the strawberries, and that was lovely. I remember, let's see. I mean, Haiku Deathmatch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Y'all, Haiku Deathmatch remains one of my favorite experiences ever. Love it, always have. I think I was intimidated that first time because I'm like, who are these older senior folks who are like crushing it, and like why did I show up with my squirrel poem? I don't understand. I was very misguided. Those are really good memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think being in Quiz and Quill myself, me too. Some of my favorite moments have been our events at the Old Bag of Nails, whether it be our lasting tradition of hoodlums and hipsters, or Haiku Deathmatch has been always really fun to see, especially with the like community that we can get together. And also, if I may be a bit of a corporate shill, to everybody listening, this March we are having indeed our Haiku Deathmatch at the Old Bag of Nail, and you should go to it because it's great. But and actually, for this episode, we are recording this with the whole of Quiz and Quill looking at us. So, real quick, I want to open the floor. Does anybody in the Quiz and Quill staff have any questions for Wes?
Yes, I do. Okay.
Be kind. Please be kind.
I will be absolutely kind. Don't worry about it. So I did sneak a peek at some of the essays you submitted to Quiz and Quill way back when.
Oh.
So,
What? What?
I was fascinated by them. I loved your writing style. I cannot remember what it was off the top of my head.
Cavalier.
It had the really pretty magazine cover though. Don't worry about it. Okay, but anyway.
What was on the cover?
Guys' abs.
Oh, that one.
That was.
It was the anatomy one.
That was. I designed that. That was me. Yes, I was the one who put a naked torso on. Yes. I don't think that Shannon liked it, but
I loved it.
Did
I
you?
didn't like the emails I had to respond to about it.
I didn't. I was.
Wow.
I was not made aware of these
I know.
emails. Thank you for. Okay. I'm sorry. Your question.
No, I love that. I
This
love
is
that tangent.
This is so much fun. I'm having a great time.
Really
Okay.
good.
But I did want to ask, how do you feel your relationship shaped you, like as a person and as a writer?
What relation? What? So here's what I can say. I often wrote about relationships and desired relationships and imagined relationships and failing relationships and all of that, right? And I think that was because at that point, definitely by the time I wrote Cavalier, I was past that initial like, what is the essay? And I was really trying to like, okay, cool. Writing an essay is about like exploring and testing and like, let me do that. And I'm gonna hope for a discovery. And so, sitting in my dorm room, click-clacking at my keyboard, hoping for a discovery about like how to proceed with this maybe love interest or whatever it was at the time. I still like almost exclusively only write about like relationship stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that that's how it started. And I also don't know that answers your question.
That's okay.
Do you want to know the name? Are you curious? Someone named Elliot?
What's fun about that is that his name was not Elliot, but instead became a particular caricature of Thomas Stearns, who I find very sexy, T.S. Eliot. Yeah, that was but Cavalier, right? So I was driving, so that was also like when I was like, oh my God, what a terrible time. College is awful, y'all.
But it's fine for you guys. You're gonna be great, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think, but also like boys are awful and just don't get involved in them, or with them. Don't.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Freddie, I think you can wrap us up.
Okay,
and-
gotcha. Okay, I understand. Once again, Wes, thank you for everything you've spoken about. And real quick, Wes is coming out soon with a new work.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. It's called My Corpse Inside. It's coming out through University of Georgia Press as part of their Crux series in literary nonfiction. Yeah, it's going to blow your socks off.
Heck yeah. So be on the lookout for that. But once again, Wes, thank you so much. It's great to have you back here in Quiz and Quill.
Thank you. This is fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Absolutely amazing stuff. I mean, once again, we thank Wes for being gracious enough to share some of their work with us and for coming to one of our meetings to just share in the fun and, relive some of those memories. It was a blessing to have them, and we really hope we get to see them again soon.
I agree. It was quite a fun meeting, Dalton.
Oh.
Well, everyone, that about wraps up our program today. Dalton and I wish to thank you for tuning in and listening to some wonderful, wonderful lyrical works. As a reminder, again, Haiku Deathmatch is on March 20th at Old Bag of Nails. It will be on the 3rd floor. And our Spring Writing Awards will be on March 17th. The senior readings will also be that day. There'll be a lot of wonderful senior readers there, so we encourage you to come. Tune in to our next episode, which will be airing sometime soon. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you so much, guys.